I want to clarify this, but I do remember in my last video about my knees, obviously, talking about how I listened to this specific album that was like my hospital album, but at that point I hadn't actually been introduced to that kind of music yet. I kind of forgot about it, but it was like September or October 2015 when my cousin introduced me. I just don't really remember anything very well about this time. I know I've said that for several videos and then I talk for 26 minutes, but I'm kind of trying to relive it as I go and remember how I felt, or at least come up with how I think I felt, because I can't remember exactly what it was like. I swear I just blocked all this out because it was the absolute worst experience of my entire life. Oh, and by the way, this was in December. It was similar to the date of my super bad knee dislocation in 2013, so it seemed fitting because I'm like, huh, this is when life screwed me over 2 years ago. Here we are again, you know? But it was still the worst, except for the other worst. Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my second knee operation. So if you saw my last video about my first knee operation, I talked about how it was the left leg and it was the scariest thing I'd ever done, which was true up until, this point, because I was supposed to have one operation, obviously, per knee, so one on my left and one on my right, but kind of the worst thing ever decided to happen to me, and it was my absolute greatest fear, even more so than doing the surgery or having pain in the first place. After the surgery and all I went through, it wouldn't work, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, my knee still didn't dislocate, which was good, but oh, I remember the moment, and it was such a shock factor, and just so much dread filled me because it's everything that I had tried to avoid for so long, and I was finally starting to get my mind in a better headspace. I don't know when this was. I guess it probably would have been October or something, maybe. I'm not sure. Since my first one was July. What happened was, when I was sitting on my bed, I went up on my knees to close my curtains or blinds or whatever. It was kind of a weird position that I'd never sat in before, but I figured it would be fine because, I was on a bed and it was squishy and whatever. So, I just kind of put all my weight, I guess, on my knee, or I really don't even think it was that much weight or that much anything that caused it to happen. It was just kind of the breaking point. It didn't hurt like pain, but I felt something immediately was wrong. So I sat back down and I looked at my knee, or I straightened out my leg and I felt my knee and everything, and it was just how it had always been, moving outwards so far. And I was just so incredibly disappointed after all my hard work and anxiety that I pushed through. Even though it was slow, I still pushed through it, and I really, really tried, despite that being a huge roadblock for me. And I'm pretty sure at the time I was still using a walker, so it's not like I was fully healed or anything, but or fully recovering, but I was at a point where I was more independent and mobile. I'm back at square one again, after all that. So I'm pretty sure we would have went to my doctor or my knee doctor person and gotten a referral for a smaller knee brace that kind of holds the kneecap in place with the gel on the outside, and then Velcro, you would pull it around. But as I mentioned before in previous videos, I always hated knee braces and absolutely refused to wear them. The straight leg Zimmer was kind of a completely different deal because I did not have a choice in the matter. But I guess straight was different because it's not I had to pull it up over my knee or anything, and nothing was moving it. It was just being held there. So despite hating it for literally my whole life and refusing to do it, inevitably I had to now have this knee brace. I will try to insert a picture here if I can find one, or a similar one, kind of. My knee doctor basically said that she could go in and fix it a little bit because she found from the first time that my tendons were mushy, and she would supposedly just retighten the tendons around the outside of my kneecap. It ended up being a lot longer of a surgery than just a little hour. I think what actually ended up happening was she tightened up the tendons around the side of my kneecap, but also did her preferred surgery, like her idea kind of that she had from the beginning, but because it was like a new program or new, I don't know, something was new and they were supposed to do it a different way, but she decided to do it the way that she had done it before, because obviously it worked because she knew what she was doing. Not that she didn't this time, like, she's very educated and good at what she does. I'm sure she did fine. It was just my kneecaps that wouldn't hold, which was to like dig kind of underneath the kneecap, put the little groove in, because my kneecap is very flat. I feel like I may have explained this before, but I don't remember, so here's the explanation again. Basically, the groove where my kneecap is supposed to sit is very flat, when it's supposed to be slightly curved to fit the kneecap and hold it in place, but because mine was flatter, it was easier to move back and forth out of place, so what she did was she just like deepened the groove. So whether we knew that was going to happen or not, I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like she would have went in with a plan a little bit more than let's just tighten up these tendons. But like, I don't remember, as I said. I did end up with some more screws, although they were smaller. I will insert a picture here if I can find one, otherwise I'll just have like an updated version of what my knee looks like now and then pointing to like the little indent scar things that were made. It was a lot different when I woke up. If you remember, as I said previously, I woke up very happy, but this time it was the absolute, utter, complete opposite. I think it was because I didn't have a very good mindset coming up for this next operation, whereas the first one, I was more like, okay, this is gonna fix everything, it's gonna help me so much, and I was like motivated and ready to take on the challenge even though I knew it would be terrible, and the second time around, I just was not feeling it. I was dreading it. Like, how could I know that this one would work? If the first one didn't work, why would this one work, you know? Like, I didn't have any positive experiences to base off of. Like, I'd already done the worst thing I could possibly imagine doing, and then I have to do something even worse. And I just, like, I didn't have anything left in me at that point. Plus, like, you'd think it would be slightly easier because I knew, like, how things worked and how I would feel. I think it was just because I knew everything that I hated and how weird it felt. It was just so uncomfortable, and I did not want to live through that again. Like the mask with the gas on it to get me to fall asleep. Plus there was the hallucinations that I would get at nighttime, and like the feeling of having no energy and like not really existing but being forced to exist for a long time. Physio, therapy, recovery, all that kind of stuff was absolute hell. Like the first time I did it, it was hell. I didn't think it would be worse the second time, but it was because my pain meds didn't actually work. I believe we tried a different kind of like heavy drug numbing sort of thing because the first time I had hallucinations and it was to try to avoid that happening. So instead of morphine, we tried hydromorphone, but that didn't end up helping me at all. Like I was in excruciating pain. Anyway, I'm kind of skipping ahead here. So when I woke up, I was in a room with 3 other people because it was supposed to be shorter, as I mentioned. So it was supposed to be like just a holding space for like a few hours or like a day at most, and then I could like get out. I'm going to say that I was in the middle of 2 people. Obviously there was like a dividing curtain, but probably just because of all the anxiety I was experiencing, having, you know, people around me and having to listen to them in pain was like a lot with me in pain, and like everyone was irritating me and I just wanted to be alone because I didn't like being in a room with strangers that were also in pain because their pain noises were triggering me because they were in distress, so I was stressed. I remember being super rude and like mean to everyone, which sucks obviously because they were there for me to help me. I think my mom and aunt bought me some sort of cute little stuffy thing, and instead of being happy and thankful like I was the first time, I was just kind of like, okay, like, why? This is stupid, I don't want it. Like, what a dumb thing. Like, I don't want your little weird bear. It's like, gross, no thanks. And I was just like being a total teenage sarcastic asshole, but not in a way that was funny, in a way that was incredibly rude. I mean, they put up with it for the first while because, you know, it's just like drugs and like I can't really control how I feel right when I get out of surgery, but think I was just taking it a little too far, and I remember crying hysterically a lot because I was probably in a ton of pain because my medication wasn't working, but also just because I really didn't want to be there. Eventually, though, I was moved to an actual room, but with other people, so it was like a full room like I had before, except there was a curtain, like, on part of the wall at the end, someone else on the other side. And people would come and go out of that. Sometimes there were a few a day. I think I ended up staying this time for 3 days instead of 5, which was slightly better. I know for some of my physio, I had to sit up in a chair rather than laying back in the bed because obviously I needed that back muscle in order to help me walk again. But I had to walk from like my wheelchair with my walker across a hall very, very slowly. Someone held my leg for a while too, like held it out so I could actually move forward with the walker because I wasn't strong enough yet to lift it with my left leg. I just wanted to collapse, like I didn't feel like I could do it anymore, and like my hands were super sweaty and I was so hot. And then I had to sit on like a little, kind of like a step stool but of stairs, if that makes any sense, to try to figure out how I was going to get up and down the stairs. It might make more sense if it was for the first one, because we had to figure out how to do a bunch of things and like navigate and stuff. But it was still like the worst, except for the other worst, which was when I went down to the cafeteria in my wheelchair. I remember sitting there at a table. It was nighttime. I don't know how late it was, but it was dark outside. I just very distinctly remember sitting by the window where I could like look out and see the street with the cars going by. And I know I was with my dad because he was the one pushing me around, and I think my mom was on the right of me too. And I remember just turning to look out the window. Like, it's the most depressed I've ever felt in my entire life. Everything seemed gray, and that's not an exaggeration. I know it might be like stereotypically. It's like, although there was color, I couldn't see it because like it was too much effort to see the color. Kind of like when your eyes just kind of like fade out, like blur out, like you're not focused on anything and you can't bring your eyes to focus because it's just like too much work and you're too tired. Plus I was on heavy drugs, but it was just like it wasn't worth it to like zone my eyes back in. The whole operation idea with my knees and just all the problems and things I'd been through in the past few years, it just felt like it would literally never end. Oh, and I remember like with all the bright lights, like it was like messing up with my head because I was all like kind of dizzy. By the time we finally left, of course it was still snowy and freezing cold outside, which just made getting into the car so much worse. This time around, it was an even slower recovery than the first time because I had no motivation and I was even more anxious because I just expected everything to go terribly wrong, and I was so scared that it would, and I was so tired of it doing it that I just wanted to protect myself. It was like going all the way back to the 2013 knee dislocation and my bent knees. My left knee has suffered from that now because like it's not the worst thing and it's not the most noticeable difference, and it probably doesn't really impact my functioning like at all. Like unless like I have to really push it and then it hurts for a little while after. Ugh, ow. Yeah, but like to get it to bend all the way. Like I kind of failed to reach that elasticity point, so it just doesn't do it naturally or barely at all. This all kind of lasted and went along until I finally got somewhere, which was May 2016, and that's where I am going to end this video. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye.